Please welcome your host, Kim Crable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. It's always so good to see you. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for reaching out to us with your emails and your phone calls and Instagram messages. We love hearing from you. So I have a question. Have you ever watched someone on TV and their story was so compelling that you thought, wow, I would love to meet them? Well, that's exactly what happened to me one morning while watching the national news. I saw an interview with an incredible couple, Jason and Erika Redman. I had heard about Jason's journey through his time as an elite U.S. Navy SEAL, as well as his horrific injuries he sustained and the surgeries that followed. But what struck me even more was his candid discussion about how, while he was battling his life and recovering, his marriage was facing its own struggles. What really resonated with me was how they kept emphasizing the word endure. The couple went on to talk about how they took that same word and applied it intentionally to their failing marriage, which led them to write Mission Invincible Marriage, a book filled with principles, examples, and practical ways to build an invincible marriage that endures life's greatest battles. They do it together. Joining us when we return from this short break are the incredible Jason and Erika Redman. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. Gosh, I am so excited about our show today. As I talked about in the intro, I was watching the news and I saw Jason talking about this book they had, and I was so touched by the fact that marriage really must have some strategic planning in it, and they had figured it out. So welcome back to the show, Jason and Erika. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having us.
What an honor. You know, the Bible talks about pay respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed, and you both have all of our respect and all of our honor for everything that you've done for us, and thank you so much. I just want to start out with that. We just so appreciate your service and what you've done for all of us, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. As we start out, you know, your book, Mission Invincible Marriage, that I have right here, let's start out by maybe doing a little bit of background, just in case people don't know about you. Let's talk about the backstory a little bit as a Navy SEAL. Could you do that for us, Jason, for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I served 21 years in the U.S. Navy SEAL teams from 1992 to 2013. So pre-9/11, conducting counter-drug operations in Central and South America, and post-9/11, obviously, conducting operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. I met Erika at a, we don't have many opportunities to meet beautiful young ladies, in a all-male unit. So I happened to be in Louisville, Kentucky, conducting training, and went out one night and I bumped into this beautiful, blonde, bronzed young lady who I tried to say hello, and she kind of blew me off. And so I, got a little bit of liquid courage and then found her later that night. And we started a long-distance relationship. And I told her, I didn't tell her I was a SEAL at first, and that's something common. I mean, we talk about this in the book. But when I did tell her I was a SEAL, I told her this is a really hard job. I said, it's very hard on marriages. I said, I will be gone a lot. There are many times I won't be able to tell you what I'm doing or where I am. I said, there's going to be many holidays and birthdays and celebrations I'm going to miss. I said, there are going to be many times you're running the household And
I think you actually told me I should run, is actually.
that is actually true, which has been an ongoing joke, Kim, throughout our marriage. Like, is it too late to run? But she said, "Hey, I'm all in. I'm going to follow you wherever." We actually we made an agreement in the beginning of our marriage that she would follow me and support my career until I hit 20 years, and at that point, then she had the decision: do we keep going or not? And it launched an amazing marriage, although. There were our challenges and we had to learn and grow. And that's really a lot of what this book is about.
Absolutely. But you did have, were hurt, were injured severely in battle. Can you tell us a little, 42, is that what I remember, 42 surgeries?
I count 40. Erika counts a little less.
37. 37.
I read somewhere 42, but what after one, it all matters, right? So can you tell us a little bit, Erika, what was that like when you get the call? I know, and also I know because I've worked with military families so much, and my brother was in law enforcement, which is kind of has a little bit of comparison, not quite, but a little bit, the danger and the fear and the wondering if they'll ever come home. From your perspective, what's it like being a military wife, and what was it like when you got that call that Jason had been so hurt?
So I think that I'm a pretty positive person in general, and I will admit that particular deployment, it had a different feel to me. I remember we booked vacation for right afterwards, and I just knew something in my gut was wrong, and I just knew when I was booking those tickets that we were not going on that trip. My friend kind of said, "Oh, your kids are getting older. You all have, a new house. You have more responsibilities. That's it." So I really shook it off. But I don't know why that deployment really felt different to me. That call, and I don't think we were ever prepared. I mean, I think we talked about, what if he doesn't come home? But I don't think it never occurred to either of us being severely wounded. I got that call, and we quickly learned about a network and resources, and really were thrust into a whole new medical world that sometimes I felt like you needed a medical degree and a law degree all in one. And wow. So our life definitely changed very, very quickly and abruptly.
Well, I'm going to go back to the first thing you said. You said I'm a pretty positive person. If you're sitting there and someone's trying to talk about marriage, maybe asking, I'm not sure, and he's saying run if you can, and you still stay, you have to be positive, right? Right? Jason G has to be a positive nature. But Navy SEAL is such an elite thing to be a part of. But yeah, I thought about that. I wondered, what that was like, and then the years that followed and everything that happened, and you would think that the unity that would bring to you, but at the same time, you talk about how the marriage began to, I think your words were crumble a bit. Let's talk about that a little bit, and then I want to go into some of these strategic plans that you have. This is an excellent book, and I know it's probably going to win all kinds of awards, but that doesn't matter. What it's going to do is it's going to save so many marriages. So let's talk about the crumbling a little bit. What began to happen? Most things start kind of small and simple. Is that the way it happened with you? What happened? And I know about it in the book, but I want to give the audience a little bit more information.
Well, I'll start by saying, his injuries weren't the hardest thing that we went. I think we had built a really good foundation, and it was a challenge. And I think when adversity hits you like that, it can do two things. It can make you stronger, or it can test a relationship and break it. So for us, it did make us stronger. And it was several years later that I feel like we really were tested, where we felt like everything was on the right track. Everything should have been good. The kids were good, and Jason was done with, about done with surgeries. Our nonprofit was doing good. And I think that that's kind of where one of our hardest points came. I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with Erica. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's kind of weird. I think for law enforcement, fire, and military, we're very driven. We're protectors. So we want to be able to protect people. We want to be able to do what we were trained to do. And when that starts to fall apart, I think that's very difficult, whether it's a transition out because it's the end of your career or whether there's an injury or whatever it is. And for me, it was the end of my career. Even though I was healing, I had wanted to get back operational. That didn't happen. So we had started this new path. And like Erica said, everything was good. But I was really struggling on the inside. And struggling with sleep issues and struggling with, some post-traumatic stress issues. And like many of us as protectors, we want to be the one that saves other people, and we frequently don't do it very well when we're the one that's struggling, and we're not good at asking for help. So what I did is, like so many of us, I kind of tried to I'm going to fix this on my own. And I started pushing people away. I kind of pushed Erica away. I started self-medicating and drinking way too much and not doing the things I needed to do as a dad and as a husband. And it wasn't terrible. I wasn't a jerk. But I was just becoming very distant. And Erica watched and kind of let me try and navigate through it. But I think this is really important where you know each other as a couple. I can run a little hot-blooded, and if you confront me, I have a tendency to push back. I'll fight back. And I think Erica was smart enough to recognize that if she confronted me like that, that wouldn't go well. So instead, she watched, and we had this pivotal moment where we were going to an event, and we had a rule. We talk about rules of engagement in the book. And those rules are, there's no name calling, there's no negativity. You're not allowed to bring up things from the past, and you could never ever bring up divorce. That's off the table. No ultimatums. And she very quietly on this drive that I wasn't talking said, hey, if we're not careful, this could be the beginning of the end. Or she said, this is how it starts, I think is what she said.
Wow.
And I was in my own world, not really paying attention. And I heard that and I was like, it caught me off guard. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, this would be the beginning of the end if we don't do something different. Like, we communicate, we talk, we deal with our problems together, and you're not doing that, and you're not allowing me to help. And it was such a shock to me because it was such a taboo thing. Like, you're not allowed to talk about the end of our marriage. Like, that's off limits. Like, that's never.
Right.
So, and I will tell you, she was not confrontational about it. She did a great job of just communicating and getting my attention. It was just shock enough to me to go seek out help. I was still active duty. I went to our counselors, and we have psychologists, and I started to work I had to go ask for help and start to work to try and heal myself.
Wow, wow, what courage that took. I want to go back to Erica. For all of those, I want you to speak to all the men right now, and as a wife who has a husband that has withdrawn, like Jason said that he did. Tell them what that does to a woman when they know that there's something going on, but there's no communication. What were you feeling?
I think it's hard. I think our instincts are to mother things and to fix things. And so, I think for us, when we feel like I can't fix this, so much going through all of his surgeries, I think that was the hardest part, was waiting in waiting rooms and not being able to always fix things. But I think him pushing me out where we're supposed to be doing, we're supposed to do this together. So I do, and I would tell, for women, I would just, be careful, because that could have become very confrontational. So I was really careful on how I approached it. But I'm grateful that he listened and that he took it to heart. And I think it's so important that we didn't, every time we got into a fight saying, oh, that's it, I want to separate, I want a divorce. We didn't do that. So when I brought it up, he was like, oh, wow, I need to listen. I need to do something. So I just would encourage, listen, use, your spouse probably wants to help. They want to help fix things. So let them be part of that solution. Like Jay said, I think for so many in the protector community, especially, there's so many different treatment options. And that's why it makes it so difficult. It's not a one-stop shop. This is what he needed to go do. There was resources, there was navigating, and I think that your spouse can kind of see things that you may not necessarily see or be aware of.
Absolutely. And isn't it true that there's such an insecurity that grows in the heart of a wife who husband has just kind of closed the door emotionally? They've left emotionally. They're no longer in the building, and you feel that. And isn't it true that your mind is the things that you create in your mind of what could be wrong so many times is so much worse than really what is wrong? And so those barriers are huge, and a lot of marriages don't survive things like that. So I just, to encourage the men to understand what the women are thinking during that time, and how detrimental that is even to a woman and to a wife, I think is another big thing that I picked up in this book. So thank you so much for answering that. And then, Jason, the other thing with you is like what I loved, and I'm a counselor, what I loved is how you listened and you didn't just kind of go, oh, well, it'll be okay, we'll figure this out, but you actually sought help. You went to, and like you said, that probably wasn't easy. What would you say to the men right now? And of course, you have this book, but we have to first get them to the point to where they're willing to pick up the book, right? But what is it about facing that fact that this is bigger than me? And if I don't do something, it's going to be not what the ending that I want. So how do we get people to feel comfortable to where they'll pick up the book?
I would say that your spouse should be your most important teammate. We talk about that in the book. And I think sometimes some guys get that, and I think sometimes guys don't get that. They don't understand that. They see that, I guess, their friends as their most important teammates and their spouse as a spouse or maybe a roommate. I'm not sure. I know that there's a disconnect there.
Yes.
God, I think it's in Genesis 2:22 where he talks about that he took the Eve of Adam to make the rib of Adam to make Eve.
Yes.
And he intended for us to have an amazing mate who would support us and be there with us and our friend. And I think if you understand that and you include them, and you guys are working together, husband and wife, mother and father. It doesn't mean, oftentimes I'll hear friends of mine in the protector community say, oh, my wife wouldn't understand. Well, yeah, if you don't explain anything to her, you're right, she doesn't understand.
Right.
And I also have guys who say, well, I want to protect my wife for some of the trauma and the things I've seen, and I can appreciate that, and maybe you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty details of, wow, we came up on an accident where a car seat was ejected and the baby was killed. You could just say, wow, I had a really, really hard day. There was a child that was killed. It's really bothering me. But allow them to carry some of that weight. They want to. They want to be, and understanding that, because now it aligns you guys in all aspects of your life. And I think that is something that Eric and I were so good at. We always look to not only the here and now, but we always look to the future. And even today, we still do it. Like, we're dreamers. We love looking at what's next down the road and how can we build that. And, we're in, we have adult kids now, and now we're starting to look at grandkids and vacation spots and things like that. And if all along your life it's like that, now you're building this amazing thing together. Mm-hmm. And I think if guys can understand that, it doesn't have to be either or. our community, there are certain things I couldn't tell Erika. There were classified things I couldn't share with her, but there were still things that I could share with her. And I knew that, and I tried to share as much as I could so that she felt included as both my mate, my best friend, and part of this unit, this lifestyle that I had brought her into.
Because it is a family affair, isn't it? It's, no matter if it's the male or the female serving, it is a family affair. I've known that. Okay, so the book is filled with strategies, and some of them are, like I love the humor part. We'll just start there. How important is humor in all of this as a marital strategy?
I would say it's always been, back to dating and even through his recovery, I think people would come into our room and we had music playing and it was fun. And I won't say that there was never bad or difficult days, but I think that being positive and using that humor really did go a long way. Right now, we are in a new phase of life. We've launched a couple businesses. So, I think very, very frequently we kind of have little catchphrases that we, look at each other and may say. And it's just, I think it just breaks that tension. It kind of just puts things into perspective and I think then we can move forward together. So I do think it's a great way, and not, to be careful, not when we say humor, it's not poking at each other. It's not, it shouldn't be one-sided. These are, great inside jokes that kind of can help alleviate situations.
And you talk about that in the book. I love that. But humor, those little moments of laughter is always good. Jason, you talk about having set clear priorities in your marriage. I want to talk about that, but even before that, because time's running out, let's talk about how you sat down and said, I've got to do something, and you decided to go as if it were a battle, and you set these strategies as if you're going in to win. I just love that, and one of those things was setting clear strategies. We have a couple of minutes left in this segment. What do you mean by that? What would you say to someone?
Yeah, I would say, if you think of special operations, Navy SEALs, we're very big on mission planning, how we lay out our expectations, how we lay out what we're going to accomplish. And I think that's something that Erika and I, whether intentionally or unintentionally, kind of did together. We looked at, from day one as we got married, we looked further down the road, and this is where we want to go. So on one side was my military career, but it didn't mean that it didn't have Erika's side also with her hopes, goals, and dreams. So I supported hers, she supported mine, and we were always looking further down the road, like, hey, kids are coming up. We need a good house to raise kids in. We need to do these different things. So not only was it fun, but it set goals and it enabled us to plan and move forward, no different than mission planning. We looked at contingencies. What if this goes wrong? Well, guess what? Here's how we're going to deal with it. In the book, we talk about the mission. So the mission is our marriage. The training, because all along, no different in special operations, we're constantly training. And then what do you do when things go wrong? What do you do when you're under fire? And we lived our marriage that way, which enabled us, and even today, to still be happy and excited. I'm in California, she's in Virginia. I miss her. I wish she was with me. But we're also working on goals and doing things at the same time.
I just love it. I think this book is going to save so many marriages. We're going to wrap this up and we'll be right back. But I'm going to hold this book up, and it's going to be on the website and everything. I have bought so many of these books, and I'm sending them to everyone I know. Get it before the marriage gets into trouble. Right, guys? We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. Oh, my goodness. This book, and like I said before, as we were going to commercial break, don't wait until your marriage is in trouble or struggling. Get it now. It just makes a happy marriage happier. Would you not agree to that, Jason and Erika?
Absolutely. I think one thing I love is I think this is a great book for somebody that's maybe dating, looking at getting married in a relationship. I think it's perfect for a couple that, newly married. I also think it's great for marriages that maybe aren't having huge issues or problems, but maybe maybe things are stale. Maybe things almost feel like you're more like roommates, and maybe you can take away some tips. So I really do think this is for a pretty wide audience.
Absolutely. It's that pre-planning, like Jason was talking about, rules of engagement, all of these things that you think about in advance so you know what you're going to do when something happens. That's so profound. Jason, you talk about one of the strategies is knowing that every failure in marriage is an opportunity. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of my DNA and who I am. It's a lot of, I speak all across the country on what I call the overcome mindset. And the overcome mindset is, how do we deal with adversity, trauma, failure, setbacks? I think that's just part of life. I think some people, it's amazing to me, that walk through this life and they're so shocked when bad things happen to them. They're like, I'm a good person. How could this have happened to me? And I'm like, it's just, look more of it as an opportunity. And in marriage, no matter what, there are going to be marriage life. It doesn't matter. There are going to be things that happen. There are going to be problems. There's going to be setbacks. I mean, Eric and I could have never predicted that I would be severely wounded, but we've seen all kinds of things in our career and in our business. We got involved in a vicious lawsuit by just a crazy thing that we never could have predicted. And they were very hard on us as we navigated through them. But with everything, we did it together. Aside from when I tried to solve my PTSD problems by myself, when Erika,
Push a little bit.
Yeah, pushed a little bit and got me back on the right path. But that's what's been amazing. We've raised our kids together. We've built our business together. We've built our future together. We run our finances together. The biggest thing we talk to people about, it's we, not me. And even when you're dealing with adversity, I mean, it's hard to go through what I call life ambushes. So many people, they can't understand the bullets and bombs of battle that I've been through. But guess what? Every person will go through the bullets and bombs of life.
Absolutely.
And they happen in marriages too. And that's okay. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you have a bad marriage. Just come back to your most important teammate, communicate, navigate through it, compromise, and look to the future at what you wanted to build and where you wanted to go.
Oh, perfectly said. Beautiful way to end the show. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Next time, in person on the sofa chairs. How about that? We'll see you. And thank you so much. God bless you for all you've done and all the ways you've served us. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. See you guys. Thank you for joining us.